So guys, Jake with 10 Tactical coming in. Well, probably should talk with this. What's up guys, Jake with 10 Tactical coming with another special video. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. Today, we're actually, today we're going to actually have a discussion. Basically, it's piss pouring rain outside, so I can't really film outside to do anything, but it got me thinking maybe we can do something inside. It seems like to me, everyone in every single gun group absolutely hates everyone else. I just recently left a bunch of different Facebook pages as well as a bunch of different subreddits for different firearms groups and subcultures because I've come to realize that being a part of those groups on a regular basis provides absolutely no benefit or positive feedback whatsoever. Now, don't take what I just said the wrong way. There is definitely a great purpose behind those groups. In fact, you can usually find most answers to your questions you might have with a specific gun. Maybe you can't get that charging handle to fit right. Maybe this trigger's acting up, and so on. That kind of information you can find in those groups. But just being a part of those groups from a regular daily basis, checking out the threads, seeing what people are saying, I found to be, and I hate this word because it's been so misappropriated so many times, it's become very toxic though. Now, when I first got into firearms 10, 12, 13 years ago, it was a much different landscape online with like Facebook and other stuff. AR15.com was a huge site back in the day. It still is now, don't get me wrong. Back in the day, you had your Facebook pages where you actually could sell guns. And you had AR15.com where you could talk about gun stuff, trade, sell, that kind of nature. I mean, you could actually find some really autistic threads on that about like barrel harmonics and all kinds of crazy shit that you would never imagine. Real specific niche stuff. Social media grew, and we see this in a lot of different groups, not just gun culture. There's definitely a sort of level of snobbiness, toxicity, negativity that seemed to spring up just in general, but also in gun groups. When I first started my YouTube channel, coming up to 2 years now, 2 years ago. So one thing I did to kind of help grow my channel, or so I thought in a good way, was to share my links to my different videos to different groups, gun groups, about specific firearms I might be covering. For example, the PSA Dagger. Did a lot of videos early on about that, and I would publish those videos, share the link to them back to YouTube, to different PSA Dagger Facebook groups. I'll do the same thing on subreddit. And what I found to usually be the case more often than not is people were constantly bashing my videos, constantly leaving me negative comments, just basically shit talking. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're going to put stuff on the internet, you got to expect to have some shit talking, right? I mean, that's part of it. You know, that's why they always say don't read the comments. I'm fine with that. I've got thick skin. The problem I have is sometimes I like to also use these gun groups and subreddits to do some research and maybe look at particular ideas, builds, things like that. And you can't go onto a single page without someone posting their build of something, and they're sitting there just bashing it. A long thread of people like just talking shit, saying it's trash, or, you know, it's like, for example, the PSA Dagger, going back to that one, I got a lot of hate in different gun groups on both subreddits and Facebook pages, just talking shit, you know, saying that it's a shit gun, that it's trash, that the video is crap. I mean, like just people arguing with me because they didn't like the PSA Dagger. The PSA Dagger is a $300 Glock clone versus a Glock that's $600 or $700 usually in today's market. Guys, not everybody comes into this world on equal footing being able to buy the same exact stuff, especially when you first step into the gun industry. You know, back during when the Kofifi hit, we had all kinds of new gun owners show up looking, doing searches for, you know, budget options and trying to just get information on how to buy a gun, as well as like how to take care of it, you know, the rules of gun safety, all that stuff, which is great. But then you saw this big influx of people talking shit and punching down people because they got cheaper budget entry-level options like PSA daggers, like hell, Anderson stuff, you know? Like, it just, there's a lot of shit talking, like, as if, unless you've got, like, an Avesky or an LMT or Nano Defense, if they're still cool, unless you have one of those, then your shit is unreliable, and you can't count on it, and you should throw it away. That's bullshit. Now, if you look behind me on my wall here, I'll let you take a look here. Most of my stuff, and this isn't everything. Now, if you look behind me, and I've got the lights on so you can see it, most of my stuff is not like high tier stuff. For example, this is not an HK MP5 or SP5 civilian variant. This is a Century Arms AP5P. You can find these usually a third or fourth of the price. This is a Brigade MFG BM9. It's an AR9 essentially. I got this because, again, it was like $700 or $800. A little bit pricier, but had some cool features I really liked. Also, if these pistol braces bother you, let me just go and tell you right now, I am a part of the Firearms Policy Coalition, preliminary injunction, something, so I ain't worried about it. This is my first AR. This is an Adams Arms with a piston system right there. Don't know if you can see that too well. And you'll see it's got a bunch of weird, like, gray, mismatched parts and stuff. Currently has an El Cheapo red dot and magnifier. Got another video coming up on that one day eventually. Now, I do have a Cloud Defensive light up there. That's kind of expensive. And a CMC trigger, which is kind of nice as well. But for the most part, I mean, this was only a $600 AR. It was actually a blemished version AR. But I got it. This was technically my first AR. I did all kinds of stupid shit with this. I put an El Cheapo bipod on there and El Cheapo scope, and I've got a picture of it here I'll show you too. You want to make it look tactical. I had a cheap little NC Star green laser on there as well at one point. This is all early on when I first got this back in like 2013. Since that time, I've shot a lot of rounds through this AR. I would say I've probably put about 7,000 or 8,000 rounds to this AR. Some people may say that's not a lot. Some people say that's a whole bunch of ammo. I think it's enough for me to know that this, in my opinion right now, is my most reliable AR-15 that I've got. Simply because I put so many rounds through it. Now, does it have all the best features? Like, I don't think it's got a chrome-lined barrel. I know it doesn't. Now, some people are going to say, oh, well, it doesn't have a chrome-lined barrel. It's got this weird profile barrel that's thicker that people don't really like. But the thing is, and I've got a UTG muzzle brake on there, an El Cheapo muzzle brake. Now, some people would say that that AR is cheap, not even worth being called mid-tier. I'm not going to say just as good either. I'm not going to be a boomer. I've put so many rounds to that particular firearm that if I had to pick one out of all the guns I've got, all the ARs, that would be the one I go with. Take this gun, for example. This is a PSA dagger with the full-size frame and a PSA slide on top. Some people say this is very cheap, very budget, and not worth your time. Got a red dot up there. It's busted up a little bit, but that's okay because we've been testing that. It's very reliable. Now, again, this is a $300 pistol, okay? I think this is a great entry-level pistol for anybody looking to get into the Glock game for the first time that wants to see what it kind of feels like to have a Glock. Maybe it'll transition them to getting an actual Glock in the future. Maybe it won't. But this right here is better than nothing for sure. People love to complain and love to rag on these for PSA being known for quality issues in the past. They like to say that this is going to be a huge problem as well. But the thing is, this is still going to work. This is still going to shoot the same bullets as a Glock 19 or a SIG or anything else. You know, it's the same shit. Will it be as consistently accurate? You know, there's a lot of variables with that. For example, I'm a trigger snob. I do not like the trigger on the PSA dagger. That's why I usually go with Glock triggers, which honestly are not that much better, but I've got more familiarity with Glocks in general. So if I had to choose between having a Glock with this kind of trigger, some people like it, by the way. If you like it, that's great. If I had to choose between this trigger or just a regular stock Glock trigger, I'll go with the latter every time. Again, personal preference. And just because I know somebody's going to question it and challenge me to it, here is my Glock 47. This is my bedside gun. It is a full size. I do not everyday carry with this gun because it's simply too big, but it is a great gun to have for bedside, in my opinion. Again, my opinion. It's got a Streamlight TLR HL1 and a Hollow Sun. Some people will say that that's a low budget light and a low budget red dot. But again, it's all about perspective. It's better to have something rather than nothing. And that seems to be the biggest challenge we're facing right now. If I were to post this gun in a picture on Facebook on one of the gun groups, it would get torn to pieces. God forbid I maybe even put like an Oli or something on there as well. I mean, this thing would get ripped apart. It would be shared to other, gun groups that make fun of this kind of stuff just because it's considered low tier and low budget, simply because it doesn't cost as much. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that PSA daggers and Anderson ARs, I'm not saying that kind of stuff that's low budget, low price is as good as the high tier stuff. You got different materials and manufacturing processes that you have to consider when comparing higher tier stuff. You got your raw materials. What kind of aluminum is being used in the upper and lower receivers? What kind of steel is being used? Is your barrel chrome lined? That goes into other manufacturing techniques. Do you have a billet or forced receiver? How about the handguard? Is it free float? Is it not? Is it a monolithic handguard to where the whole upper is one piece with the handguard itself? There's a lot of different pieces involved when it comes to deciding if something is going to be more budget friendly or more expensive. Nicer features like the monolithic grill or the chrome lined barrel doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a good, reliable gun. Are those things nice to have? Yeah, obviously, because, for example, chrome lined barrels are going to have a lot more consistency with accuracy at long distance ranges. Now, that being said, are you going to be shooting at those long distance ranges, 400, 500, 600, 700 yards, and so on? A lot of people may not. A lot of people may not have access to that kind of land to do that stuff, and that's okay. Here's my OB1 Nairobi gun on a budget. It's a Anderson lower that I lovingly spray painted there. You can probably see the potholes and stuff where I've beat the piss out of it. And it's got a PSA upper that came complete already out of the factory. You'll see it's got an O-light on there. Yes. Why? Because it matches the color. I know it's silly. Still not a huge fan of O-light, but you know what? I bought a bunch of O-lights early on before I knew what I was doing. So I'm going to use them if I can. Hollow Sun green dot up top. And of course, Magpul furniture throughout. Not free float, obviously. Magpul rear flip up sight. Magpul grip, Magpul pistol brace. It's got a huge heavy barrel in there, which if you know anything about barrel production, that it's not really something you want. Typically, you really want to have a pencil profile barrel that's going to be a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter, and be a little bit more accurate. However, with thicker barrels, they do tend to last a little bit longer. So a little give and take there, just a little inside baseball. I kind of overpaid at the time because it was during the pandemic, but altogether, I probably spent about $500 building this AR, not counting the light or the red dot in there, but still a pretty good amount of money. I know this video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to just kind of wrap it up. The point I'm trying to make is we have a problem in the gun community. We love to shit on each other for having what we consider to be lower quality stuff. I don't know if it comes from a place where we want to feel better about our own purchases, or maybe we just truly think that our particular farm that we own, whether it's a Glock, SIG, Noveski, whatever, it's just the bee's knees and it's the only thing we should have. Maybe it's a little bit of both. The point I'm trying to make is it's not good for the gun culture. If you come into this world as a new shooter and you're excited about showing your first ever handgun or rifle, you post a picture up and suddenly you just get blasted because it's maybe a PSA or an Anderson or something like that. Are you going to want to continue being a part of that culture? Probably not. If we're really trying to spread the right to bear arms and the enthusiasm of just having the Second Amendment to everybody, dogging each other out like that is not the way to do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to help someone out that maybe doesn't have the experience that you have with what's good and been reliable for you. The point I'm trying to make is, guys, we got to stop busting on each other's balls. I mean, we all come from different walks of life. We all have different levels of income, and we all have different levels of experience with firearms. And that's okay. We should learn and grow from one another, not just put each other down. And that, my friends, is the problem we have right now in the firearms community. We tend to put each other down rather than help lift each other up. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video today. Remember, if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. I know this is not typically our normal format of videos, but if you enjoy this kind of content, let me know down below. We will see you next time. Affordable for you may not be as easily. Shit. Hey dude, what's up?